Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the California Small Farm Conference. My name is Evan Wigg. I'm with Community Alliance for Family Farmers, CAF, and we're excited to have you here. If you are looking for shepherding change in meat processing, you are in the right place. We've got a great workshop for you today. For anybody who is in livestock, ranching, processing industries, or anyone just curious about changes taking place in that world. So thank you so much to our presenters who are going to be sharing their experience and wisdom with us today, as well as to all the sponsors who help make this event possible. I want to let everybody know that today's workshop is being recorded. Will be available after the conference for folks to view, and that you're going to see an evaluation pop up on your screen at the end of the workshop. If you want to take a couple of seconds to fill that out when it's over, that would be much appreciated. And then lastly, just want to remind folks that they have a chat function as well as a Q&A function on your Zoom screen. So if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to drop it in there or introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're coming from, whether you're ranching, farming, or if you're with an organization. And of course, any questions you might have for our presenters. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Letitia, who's going to be today's moderator. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Evan. Hello, everyone. We're so pleased that you're joining us today. My name is Leticia Benador. I'm the Policy Research Specialist at CCOF, California Certified Organic Farmers, where I'm very lucky I get to do what I love every day, and I work to support organic livestock producers. I'm really thrilled to be joined by two very busy, very knowledgeable meat processors, Matt Gamba from Bud's Meats and John Fagundes from JMF Slaughter, who you'll get to meet and hear from in a little bit. I just put the agenda in the chat so you can kind of see where we're going today. But basically, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction. We're going to have an overview of what kinds of inspection there are available in California, and then we'll get into a panel, and we have so much time for questions. So I will drop the agenda once again in the chat. It doesn't show up for those who just joined. So I really encourage everyone to be engaged, ask any and all of your questions. The majority of the time will be spent answering questions and talking with John and Matt. So this workshop is part of CCOF's Meat Matters campaign, which is our effort to create and advance solutions to meat processing bottlenecks that especially impact California's small farmers and organic farmers. One underlying cause of the bottleneck is industry consolidation and regulatory pressures that have made it very, very hard for small processors to stay in business, to expand or upgrade their facilities and meet the evolving needs of California's producers. So this workshop will be an opportunity to hear processors' perspectives on the challenges they are facing and to learn more about their businesses and to learn how processors and producers can more effectively work together. So I just want to start by acknowledging there are long-standing and complex problems in the meat industry. So I want to remind us that the solutions highlighted in this workshop are not going to solve the larger issue, but it is important to take steps forward and start the conversation. So I want to invite everyone to engage with us during the workshop. And if you're compelled to continue the conversation, we have a California Meat Processing Coalition that meets every month. And we get together, we talk about the problems, and we try to co-create solutions and advance them. And we welcome all of you to join us. So please reach out to me to learn more about the Meat Processing Coalition and how you can get involved. I will put my contact information in the chat later on. So without further ado, let's jump into just an overview of the meat processing inspection options in California. I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. So you have three basic options as a producer in California. You can sell your meat for retail, you can have meat that is for personal consumption, and then you can have live animal sales. The first option, meat for retail. This is meat that is for sale. There are no restrictions on where this meat can be sold. So all meat and poultry produced for retail in the US must come from animals that are slaughtered and processed under continuous inspection, meaning that every animal is inspected before and after slaughter. The USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service, FSIS, provides this type of inspection. And federally inspected meat products can be sold within California, shipped over state lines, and internationally. There's no restrictions. Now, there are two exemptions to this law in California. They're the so-called poultry exemptions. They allow small-scale poultry producers to do on-farm slaughter without USDA inspectors doing continuous bird-by-bird inspection. And you can still sell the meat, but there are restrictions on where this meat can be sold. And there are kind of nuances to those two categories. There's one category for those producing under 1,000 birds, and there's another category for those producing between 1,000 and 20,000 birds. So you can look on the CDFA website for more information or reach out to me to learn more. The second category is meat for personal consumption. Animals can be slaughtered and processed at custom exempt facilities, and these are inspected by the California Department of Food and Agriculture. They can also be processed by a custom exempt mobile processor licensed under CDFA. These facilities can only slaughter and process livestock for exclusive use of the livestock owner, family, employees, and non-paying guests. This meat cannot be sold at all, and it's labeled not for sale. Third, is the category of live animal sales. In this category, the live animal must be sold before slaughter, and it can be slaughtered either at a custom facility or on the ranch where it was raised, and then taken to a custom processor for cut and wrap. So now I'll get into a little bit of the changes specifically in California around live animal sales that just started this year. So prior to January 1st, 2022, the on-farm slaughter allowance that I just described, where you can have your animal slaughtered on farm, was only legally allowed for cattle. I understand that it was going on for many other species, but it was legally only allowed for cattle under CDFA. So CCOF, the California Meat Processing Coalition, and the Farm Bureau advocated to pass a bill, AB 888, which grants the same allowance that cattle producers had to producers of goats, sheep, and swine. So this bill simply makes the practice of on-farm slaughter legal, which protects the producer from potential penalties and fines when operating outside the law. And that's in fact why we brought this bill forward, because producers were getting fined and penalized. So how does this work? The producer sells the live animal to the new owner before harvest. The producer schedules mobile slaughter services to harvest any number of goats, sheep, swine, or cattle on the ranch they were raised. There are no restrictions on the number of animals that can be harvested per year. If the livestock are cattle, the producer also has to schedule a brand inspection before the slaughter. After slaughter, the mobile slaughter operator transports the carcass to a custom facility for cut and wrap. The finished product is labeled not for sale and returned to the new owner. So the producer has to register with CDFA and pay a one-time fee of $100 or less. The producer has to maintain records for 1 year, which includes contact information for the new owner. And then the mobile slaughter operator has to be licensed as a livestock meat inspector with CDFA, and they pay an annual licensing fee of $500 or less, and they complete annual training with CDFA. The MSO, also the mobile slaughter operator, must maintain records for 1 year, and they'll note if the livestock has any kind of identification markings to kind of keep track of the animals that are slaughtered. So I just want to note again, this structure was already in place for cattle producers, and it was modified slightly for small ruminants. So it's not entirely new, but I wanted to make you aware of this. Something that is new is that they have lifted the restrictions on the number of animals that can be slaughtered per year. So there are no more caps on that. Registration for this program is not yet available. CDFA is working on it. So please visit CDFA's website for more information. I'll put a link in the chat shortly. And I'll also include a link in the chat to a blog post that explains this information. And then for those of you who are going to utilize this program, we would love to hear feedback on anything that needs to be improved or any problems you're having, and we can communicate that with CDFA. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. That is the extent of my little presentation. And if anyone has any questions, let me check the question and answer. Will we share this recording or presentation deck after? So yes, this presentation is being recorded, and if you email me, I'd be happy to send you the PowerPoint presentation. And then we have a question. If a ranch wants to process poultry, are they required to have initial inspection with a HIPAA plan? If so, is that USDA or CDFA? So I assume you're talking about the poultry exemptions for the small poultry producers under 1,000 birds or under 20,000 birds. The under 1,000 birds, I don't believe you need that. There are some requirements for those doing between 1,000 and 20,000 birds. And CDFA manages that exemption. It is a federal exemption. However, CDFA has decided to adopt portions of it within our state. And so there's a lot of details to that. And I'd be happy to follow up with you after if you send me an email. And I'll also put a link in the chat so you can look and find some more information on that. All right, I think that's all the questions so far. And then we can go ahead and get into our panel. I'm going to share my email as well. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. I'm trying to put things in the chat and talking at the same time. Water. All right, our panel. I'm so excited to have Matt and John here today. We have Matt Gamba from Bud's Meats, who operates a custom facility, and John Fagundes from JMF Slaughter, who operates a USDA mobile slaughter operation. Now everyone knows what those things are. I want to welcome both of you and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. Again, I invite the audience to please write your comments and questions for Matt and John in the chat anytime. And I would like to start off by asking you to introduce yourselves. So whoever would like to go first, please just introduce yourself, how you got started and why you do what you do. Maybe John, Matt?
Yeah, have John start.
All right, John.
So my name's John Fagundes. I started operation on March 25th, 2021. So we're coming up to a year now. Yeah, so I'm fairly new to the USDA slaughter and processing. But yeah, I mean, we're open for business and hopefully take care of all our producers' needs to get to that retail sale of their product. So.
Would you like to share a little bit about how you started just during the pandemic?
Yeah, so actually I'm a carpenter by trade. I raise a little hobby farm. I run some cow-calf pairs. I've sold, animals for butchering on farm on our small little farm here. So it's always been in my blood, the agricultural part about livestock and raising animals and getting meat in our freezer. And, I was working in the city as a carpenter, and pandemic obviously sent everybody home when that first hit, and just watching TV and kind of seeing the issues with the national system as far as food production goes, seeing the, no meat in the stores and kind of what that, how vulnerable that system was. It kind of just triggered an idea for me that we need it here, especially when we're in Sun, close to, the local, for private sale. They kind of just did their own thing and turned away all the ranchers that were doing private sales for retail of their products. So I did some market research, realized we need it here, and kind of just took the leap of faith and, just went for it. This started back in March of 2020. I got my unit like the December of 2020, and we opened and slaughtered our first animal on March 25th, 2021. So that's kind of how I came to be. So.
Wonderful, thank you. And we'll hear more about how it's going in a minute. But Matt, let's hear from you.
Yeah. So yeah, I have Bud's Custom Meats in Pembroke, California. We've been here since '75. My dad started the business. I think when we moved out here, he was actually a retail cutter for Purity Markets in Petaluma. And he was on the west side of town. So mostly the ranchers and farmers from that area would actually shop that store. So he got to know the farmers and ranchers pretty well. He decided at one point, well, he was a hobbyist too, raising animals, backyard, loved animals. So he started raising animals and started selling them quarters and halves. And we would do that actually in the garage. We had probably a 4x10 little cooler and cut them up in the garage, just like a lot of farmers and ranchers would have been doing on the ranches. So he really enjoyed that. He really enjoyed the community and part of that and the farming and that stuff. So he decided he wanted to buy a ranch. So he bought a ranch out here in Pengrove, 50 acres. And he should say, built the shop. So back then, I think I was about 10 or 12, and that was really a kind of a changing point in our family's lives. He was a blue collar worker, good job. Back in the day, meat cutting was considered a very good blue collar job. We took vacations, 2 or 3 weeks, water skied. I mean, we did all those family things. Well, we moved out here. That really changed the dynamics of the family and what we were going to be up to for the term. So he kind of put it into as a kind of an exciting journey for us. It's how he kind of put it. And it was this grandeur of what we were going to build and what we were going to do. So we did that. And I pretty much worked here after school, weekends. I was playing football. I could only play one sport back in the day. I played a lot of sports. So I get out of school a little early, come here, work, go back to practice and come back. But just like a lot of farmer kids did back in the day. Yeah, we were taught to work, and that's how it was done. So things progressed. I decided to be a carpenter just like Johnny. I got into the framing. did that on and off, back and forth, actually working between my dad, helping him out, doing carpentry, working evenings for my dad, doing ranch slaughters on evenings and weekends, trying to keep him going. And he decided he was done 3 times. This is the 3rd time I took it over. So here we are. We've been out of here since 1975. I started with 3 employees. Now we're up to 18, and now it's a slower time, and we get up to 22, 23 employees when things are rocking and rolling. We're pushing it. So that's kind of our story here in a nutshell.
Thanks, Matt. That's a long time.
Yeah, no, it's been a long road.
Yeah, that's a wealth of experience. And it's great that we have John, who worked at Bud's Meats for a little while too. So you've been a resource for the community, training other meat cutters. So my next question is just to describe kind of your business model and what kind of services you offer, and whether you've expanded or changed the kind of services that you offer over the years. So we can start with John.
Okay, so I pretty much, my service is to bring that animal, that live animal into, into meat, into food. So, producers need a USDA slaughter when it's sold for retail. So they'll bring it to me. I'll knock, bleed, eviscerate, skin, bring that animal to a carcass form, and then I will bring that carcass to a further processor. Most of my business is to USDA plants. I would say around 95% of my customers will further process at a USDA plant. But I do have a handful of producers that like the idea of the USDA slaughter for inspection, make sure everything's healthy, clean, sanitary, the whole 9 yards, in a controlled environment. And then I'll bring those to, a state level shop. But like I said, the majority of my customers will further process USDA for retail sales. I do offer like whole carcass sales as well. So, someone could call me, they want a half a beef, no problem. Like I said, I raise my own animals. I'm able to process my own animals, which is kind of exciting. It's nice to do that finally, and get it out to the consumers. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. As far as evolving, I haven't really thought about it yet. I'm just trying to tackle this first, get this under control and established, and to where I don't, I know the ins and outs of it first, and then, we'll just see where the future takes it. But first, I just want to get this accomplished to where, it's running smooth, like a well-oiled machine. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Great. Thanks, John. So Matt, how about you, your kind of your business structure and the kind of services you offer? I know there are many.
First, I want to say, John, it was a big undertaking, and he took it on. And he's kind of old school. He put much this together himself, and took it on his own shoulders. So you don't really get to see that a lot anymore. So my hat's off to John for what he's doing, what he's trying to do, and it is a great service for the community. We very well need that, as we all know. As Ren Sun Farms decided that's not what the direction they wanted to go anymore. So again, to John, great job, keep it up. And for us, yeah, it's and like John says, he doesn't know, and I never really had a grand plan to where I was going or what I was trying to do. I just, as we were going and growing, I just knew, and the consumers let me know what they needed and what they wanted. I tried to go in those directions, right? So the consumers are what has led me throughout this whole thing. So, you know, again, obviously without them, we don't have a business, and there's, it's over. So, and I've been over the last, well, since the craze really started, probably about 10, 12 years ago, asked to go USDA, asked to go USDA, you know, when are you going? When are you going? And, you know, honestly, I was one of the very few producers in the area, and there wasn't a lot of choices back then either. So, you know, that has changed over time. That, you know, obviously when people start seeing that there's a chance to make some money at something and are passionate about it, they're going to jump into it, try to do something with it. And it's been needed. It's been needed for a long time. So it's really good to see these new people, young people, get involved and show their stuff, do what they're good at, and what their passion shows. So for me, it's been, I mean, I just last 5 years added 1,200 square feet of processing area. I just got a grant to try to go USDA. So we're in the midst of that. And honestly, I'm going to see where we go. On the USDA platform, I don't know exactly where I want to be. I'm not going to really make a commitment at this time. I'm mostly processing. I've also thought about smoking and curing, but what I'm dealing with right now with USDA, it just really turns me away. I just don't really, I don't get a good feeling from them. So I'm really going to do what I feel comfortable with, what I think we can do the very best job with for our customer, and what we can really help the community with. So that's where we're headed, and we'll see where we end up with that.
Yeah, that's great. So Matt is referring to a USDA grant program that is kind of part of a larger USDA effort that's going on right now to break up consolidation in the industry. And so they're trying to provide funds to smaller facilities to support them in expanding or upgrading to USDA inspection, because again, producers are asking for it because they want to be able to sell their meat anywhere and have that flexibility. So I've heard that it's a very challenging process, and Matt was just talking about going USDA is not easy at all. And so we commend you for doing that. That's an amazing service for the community. And if there are other processors on this call that are interested in learning how to get those funds, there's a new USDA program that just was released last week with a new set of funds. And I will post a link into the chat for that. Also, please feel free to email me and I can get you that information. It is really important to try to find some support when applying for these grants. They're big, they're overwhelming, but there's people out there that can help you. And so please contact me and I can get you some support with those grants. So we have a question here, which about for John, from Kathy Webster. How did you raise the funds to buy the unit?
Good question. So like I said in the beginning, I had my own kind of cow-calf operation as a hobby farm. I grew my herd pretty good. I had quality animals, and I mean, I pretty much sold most of my herd to help fund this. So that was kind of a hard thing to do, but you know, I figured they can always grow back. So a good chunk of the finances came from the herd that I've been building for the last 15 years. And then also just private funding, private money. So it's tough. I mean, interest rates are always, you know, on my mind, and, you know, the payments that are out there, but it was completely, I mean, it was family private funding and my own personal savings, cutting costs. I mean, doing it all myself as a carpenter, I was able to build most of my stuff myself. My delivery trailer, it was built by my hands, you know, in my backyard, and anywhere where I could save $1, that's really what it came down to, you know. When you do it on your own and trying to, you know, start something, you have to find a way to trim the fat and get to where you can start operating and go from there. And the first year it looks promising. It's going to work out. It's just we can slowly grow. Like for instance, yesterday I started pouring more concrete and getting my facility nice and better and bigger, and just kind of growing from there. And we just made do what we had to get off the ground and start. And now I can kind of give a little bit more to the business to make it more efficient.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on that huge effort. Thank you again for that. There's another question for you, John. When will JMF be able to process hogs? This is from Patrick Hansen, and he also says, John, years ago, I got your number from Orlando, Brazil for pink eye medication advice. It worked, and thank you. So
you're welcome. So processing hogs, it's kind of the cat out of the bag. I've been doing hogs for some of my producers. I don't really have the best setup for hogs, so I've been kind of reluctant to kind of get out there and tell the community that I'm able to process them. So yes, I am doing hogs. I do not scald them, so they're skinned. I do not have a scalder, and I don't have. Again, there's just stuff. I wanted to buy one and get one going, but I had to make a decision to cut costs where I could, and that's something that was on my mind, something I wanted to do, but it wasn't in the cards at the time. I've got a lot of feedback and a lot of customers that do hogs. I just have a ton of other customers that do beef and lambs, and there's only so much time in the day. So growing the hog slaughter is really not on my mind. But like I said, the cat's out of the bag, and people are pushing to do hogs. So yes, I am doing them. One or two or small scale, we can always fit it in, but large scale hog producers, it's kind of something that I encourage them to keep going to Olson's or wherever they're going for the USDA slaughter. Contact me and we can talk about it and see what your production numbers are, and we can go from there.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then we have just a quick question. Where is Bud's Meats located, and kind of how far do people travel to get to you generally?
Yeah, so we're at 7750 Petaluma Hill Road, Pembroke. So if you know Petaluma Hill Road, we're just about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles south of Sonoma State College, Petaluma Hill Road. Retail, well, almost all of it now. We are kind of a destination, it's turned out to be. People travel quite a long ways for our products and our services. Our truck, butcher truck will travel. We'll go down as far as Pacifica and up as Cloverdale into Mendocino County. But to do those, we try to get a few animals in those areas, so it makes it worthwhile. If we had to go just get one of those animals, it would be very costly for the producer and actually for us. And we really do want to keep our costs down. That's pretty tough on pricing now. Everything, as we all can see, is increasing and increasing very fast right now. So that is something we really try to keep control of and try to minimize our overhead and what we have to charge the consumer. When we have a fairly large truck, we can put 5, 6 beef in this truck at 6 to 7 weights and numerous other animals. So again, we'll do some travel if we can put enough things together in the areas to do that. Retail, it's absolutely crazy where people come from. I don't understand it all the time. I'm grateful and I love it and I appreciate all the support we get from everywhere we get it. I mean, I actually have customers that come down from Washington twice a year, and they come in and buy $2,000 or $3,000 worth of product. They bring down ice chest, 4 or 5 ice chest, and go. And they come down twice a year. There's two different people. They've been doing this 10, 12 years. We see a lot of that now. We see people really traveling. They'll bring ice chests. They'll stock up. Maybe they'll try to come. You know, a lot of them have schedules that they try to work into. So they might come once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months, and obviously the more local ones will be coming once a week. But yeah, it's mind-boggling what. And that's something that we all need to keep in mind. I mean, if you produce a good service and a good product, and you are you're transparent, and transparency to me is the biggest thing. I remodeled my shop. You can now see absolutely everything we do, all the processing. You can stand in my retail shop and you can look and pay attention to every process that we do now. And that was something that I've been working on for the last 20 years, trying to get to that point. And we finally got there. A big thing for me. And my customers really enjoy it. We have a lot of customers come in just to observe what we're doing and how we're doing it. So those are all big things. And your customers pick up on that. They see it. They understand the effort and the hard work and what you're doing and what you're trying to do for them. And they're very appreciative, and they show me their love, and I really do appreciate all that we get.
That's great. And so it sounds like one tip for producers, especially those that might be farther away, is to talk with your neighbors and other producers in the area, get together, try to coordinate on scheduling, right?
Very much so. I mean, and it's really great because some of those customers they'll call me 2 or 3 months, and probably for a lot of other businesses too out there, not just me, but they'll call 2 or 3 months in advance and say, hey, you know, we're going to be wanting to harvest this animal or that animal. My friend has a couple too. Put us down. Let us know when you can get out there. We're shopping too for you. So you know, that's it's got the word's gotten out, and yes, that's a great help for us. Great help. Nothing worse than driving an hour and a half to butcher some animals, and you got room for more, and you come back the next day, or you call you up and say, hey, you know, I got this beef. You were just next door yesterday, you know, and it's like, damn, okay, well, let's give us a couple months and we'll see what we can get back down there, you know. So communications.
Right. And then for John, for your business model where you kind of have your host farm, could you just you also love when producers get together as well, but what kind of numbers are you looking for?
So, I mean, I call it when they call, I have like slots for the schedule, right? So when producers are going to bring it, I guess, to my host ranch, it's really just me juggling, you know, the schedule of when that slot's going to fit. I mean, 1 animal is easy to fit in, you know, 8, it's a little different, you know, I need a full day for that. And then also where they're going. So I try to schedule throughout the week to what processor they're going to. You know, some processors are on certain days early in the week because they're easy to get to. Some processors need to be on Mondays. Some need to be on certain days for delivery. And like Matt says, we got to juggle what it costs to put a truck on the road. So I don't want to have, you know, 2 beef in a trailer that can handle 10 show up and drop them off. You know, we want to fill it and make it economical for us to keep our costs down. Again, like Matt talked about, and just to make sense. I mean, we don't want to be wasteful, especially with the resources. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the numbers, what the producers are doing on a weekly or yearly schedule. But I've kind of built it to a point where we're sharing that, and there's 3 or 4 producers at any given day that I'm processing their animals. So
Okay. And then how far out are you scheduled right now? Do you prefer when producers book kind of like every 3 months for X number, or just call you every time, or kind of what do you see and what do you prefer?
I mean, Matt will agree, the earlier the better, because I mean, we're in February. Well, actually, we're in March. My March is full. Like, I mean, 1 or 2 animals. Like, I mean, my grandfather always says the freeway's full, but there's always room for 1 more car. So, 1 or 2 animals, we can always kind of work with you. But again, if you're, on a larger, I wouldn't say larger scale, but if you're doing, groups, large groups, especially if you're coming from far away and you want to process them all at the same time, you need to get on that schedule early. Over 5 or 6 animals in March, you'd have to wait till April or May. And May, June, and July are getting there. I mean, people send me their schedules for the year, so I'm booked till November. Not saying it's full, but it gets full quick. I mean, I'm about a month out for realistic, larger numbers of animals. I notice lamb producers are generally bringing larger groups when they process their lambs. They're smaller animals, so I feel like they get sold a lot quicker and they're easier to work with. Beef producers kind of bring them in small bunches, 2 to 5, just depending on what they are. Ones, a lot of singles. So yeah, the earlier the better.
Mm-hmm. And then do you have a busy season where it's really crazy, and then a little bit more downtime where you would prefer producers bring more animals during a certain season?
A lot of my producers are, they're selling for retail, right? So they're in butcher shops, they're in grocery stores, they're at farmers markets. I guess the farmers markets clients slow down a little bit in winter. And again, this is my first year, so I don't know if I have a busy season. I thought, I might have to go back to my carpentry skills in December and January, thinking, hey, it might slow down. But most of my customers, they're on a standard schedule, right? So I think I have a baseline, and then I believe once farmers markets start kicking off, summertime, everyone wants to barbecue, and there's a lot more sales. And I think Matt can kind of talk about that too. A lot of single butchered animals are done in summertime, spring and summer, and that's probably the busy season for slaughtering livestock.
Yeah, I think if I can mention, and he's absolutely right. And the big reason for that is the grass is starting to head out, and the animals are getting fat and doing well. And when you're butchering animals, you really want those animals to be on the game. You don't want them just holding their own or going downhill. You want to gain on those animals. So those are really the times that you really want to butcher. And most farmers and ranchers that are skilled or have been in the industry for a while all know that. And honestly, back in the day when Johnny was much younger, he learned that, I'm sure, from his grandparents and parents, and it's been this way for ever. And really the reason grain ever got out there mostly is because they could have a consistent product all year round. And very hard to do that in the grass-fed industry. It's a very tough job. There's a few that can do that, a very few that can do that, but they're all about quality of grass, quality of food. And if they're just grass-fed animals, they are going to be done spring, summer, and that's when you get the quality of
Great. And then with the drought years, I assume that with the grazing season ending earlier, that maybe some of the butcher dates are getting pushed earlier and earlier.
Right, exactly. So yeah, all that does play a role in us in our businesses, of course.
Great. Okay. We have a question here. Can anyone talk more about private sales? So I don't know, whoever wants to take that.
So when he says private sales, are we talking about private labeling? what exactly do we mean by private sales?
They don't elaborate. If the person who asked that question wants to type into the chat a follow-up on exactly what you mean about private sales, I'm wondering if they may be referring to the live animal sales.
Yeah, that may be so too.
Yeah.
And like John said, so USDA, for John's side of it, and if he's going to try to sell or move animals, he can do that just with a phone call over the phone. He'd take your name and he'll do his slaughter USDA, and he doesn't have to pre-sell that animal. I mean, he's going to want to I would guess, maybe get a deposit from somebody, try to hold that animal for him so he doesn't get caught, somebody not picking that animal up. But when we get into the, which was 5 head a day, and with the state, so those have to be pre-bought. You're going to have to buy that animal ahead of time. And your producer's going to have to be registered, make sure he has all his ducks in a row. And it would go from there. It would go from him to slaughter to the shop. And then once it gets to the shop, we're going to have to make sure we got all our ducks in a row, because everybody's, nowadays everything's about paperwork. We got to have a paper trail for absolutely everything we do, and which is a great, we get it, I understand it, but it is overwhelming, way overwhelming. And sometimes I think it's just a way to weed out the weak, and it's very sad, because there's a lot of gifted people out there, and they make it very hard on those people to try to be in this business and try to make a living. Make it very tough on them.
Yeah, we definitely hear that a lot, challenges with paperwork. And it sounds like maybe one way that producers can make it a little bit easier on you guys is to kind of have their ducks in a row, their paperwork ready.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, make the process a little bit smoother, save everyone some time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, and it even comes to cutting instructions. You can't believe how I mean, we get the beef in, we age it for 2 weeks, and we normally call as soon as we get that animal in and we find out where it's going, and we'll make those calls. Hey, we need cutting instructions. Well, we'll come down to day 14, day 15. We're trying to get it cut. Please give us your cutting instruction, because we want to do it right. We wanted to do it the way you want it. We don't want to have to make the call and do it the way we think it should be done just because we can't reach you and we're worried about the product spoiling or going bad. So yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest hurdles that we have. And then pickup is another one. Once it's cut and processed and done, a lot of the producers or customers, they feel no pressure now. I mean, we got it frozen. It's going to be fine, but we got to keep things ball rolling. We got to get that product in and out, in and out. That thing fills up. We got nowhere to go. We got nowhere to put this product. So now we got to slow down. We got to tell the other end, who's ever trying to bring the animals in, hey, we got a blockage at this end of the port. So, please slow down until we can get this blockage removed, So we really need everybody, to really feel what's going on and try to understand what's really needed out there for us.
Yeah. Okay. So I heard 2 big things for producers. One is getting your cutting instructions really, really clear, and also like being available in case you do need to call. And the second thing is picking up the finished product on time, because you don't have the freezer space to hold that stuff.
Correct.
And those 2 big keys to building a good relationship with your processor.
Very good.
And so for, someone who's new to this, do you have a cutting form on your website, or do you kind of, how could a new producer put it in a form that would be, good for you?
Honestly, and John, I hope I'm not overstepping any of your questions, but honestly, we do have cutting instructions on our website. You can go to it. We have them broke down: pigs, lambs, beef, and wild game. I mean, we offer a lot of services. We make wild game sausages, and all that information's on there. But to be quite honest with you, we much rather talk to the person that the order's for, because there's a lot of gray area in there, and we really do want to make sure you get it the way you want it. So we really need to be hands-on with that, and really work down that cut list, and find out what is it that you really want. What's, what is it where are we trying to get? First of all, is this, where do you want to be with when this is all done? And then we start breaking it down and trying to make sure we get it to you the way you would like to have it.
Okay,
So
that's
personal calls is the best.
all right. So phone call. I did put the Buds Meats website in the chat earlier, and I also put the JMF website, and I believe their phone numbers are on there. So you guys can go check those out. And then John, I could put the same question to you if you have any thoughts, on cut lists and freezer space as well. There is actually a specific question around freezer space. Do you charge, for both of you, do you charge producers a daily or weekly freezer cost when they don't pick up the finished product?
For me, I threaten a lot. So we usually give 10 days. From the time we cut, we mark down the day we make the call for a pickup. And we try to wait 10 days. I give 10 days grace period to that for a pickup. And we would love it picked up way before then, but we try to give that space. I have products in there, that stay way longer. I really do make a lot of threats that I'm going to charge. And then there'll be times if they catch me on a bad day and things aren't going just my way, I may charge on those, but I hate to do it. It's really not what I want to do. I'd just rather have the space.
Okay, great. And then John, you obviously don't have freezers.
Yeah. So kind of my thing is, once they're scheduled with me, I'll kind of touch base with the processor. Like, okay, where's it going? When's it being delivered there? Are they on your schedules? And then it's up to me to kind of manage my timing wise as far as when that carcass goes. I mean, generally I'll hold a carcass for about 2 to 3 days, sometimes 7, just depends on, species or where I'm going with it. If it, like I said, if it needs to fill the truck, but a majority of them, it's 2 to 3 days. I mean, I can release it within 24 hours as long as it's the temperature. So I try to get them out as fast as possible, just because I'm limited on my space, what I can handle or hold in my unit. So I really don't have a charge, and I don't offer any hanging. I don't offer people to age their animals. Just, again, I'm super limited on my space, and I need that cooler to be able to chill my carcasses from the next day. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, great. That's really helpful. And then there's a question for John from Kathy Webster, who says, thank you for bringing your service to the Bay Area. You were a huge help processing some of our animals last year. Are you salting hides? And can someone who's dabbling in tanning hides purchase hides from you?
So I call them big slaughterhouses. They do so many animals to where all of their live animals are brand inspected prior to slaughter. So once that happens, that hide is transferred to the slaughterhouse, and they can do as they please with them. They usually get them out pretty quickly. It's expensive for brand inspection. So yes, I salt every single one of my hides. I try to build up a nice pile of hides, and then I'll call for brand inspection, and they'll be looked at individually. Each hide will be looked at by the brand inspector. Once he signs off on them and releases them to me, I can now put them into, open market, really. Look, if somebody wants a hide, sure. I can just let me know if you want to play around with tanning, explain kind of what you're looking for. I I do kind of hips, which is kind of a smaller beef. So if you're kind of learning, you probably want to start on a smaller hide, or even some goat hides or lamb hides. But yeah, just kind of tell me what you want. We do all different types of breeds. So there's different colors and patterns and hair lengths, and so there's tons of options. And yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. You just have to wait until we perform our brand inspection and they're released to me as a now an owner, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
And then to clarify, is the brand inspection just for the cattle hides or also for other hides?
So brand inspection in the state of California is only for beef cattle or cattle. Lambs, there's no inspection requirement. So lamb hides can be, either discarded or salted and saved. I mean, it's sad to say, but there's just no. The salt costs more than the hide or the pelt is worth on a lamb or a goat. So yeah, they're not saved as much. Pretty looking ones, like a nice lamb that's got some cool colors, I'll save those and give them to or sell them to my hide buyer. But again, they're readily available. If someone is interested in their own animal hide back, it's not a problem. I can put it in the pile, put a tag on it, and make sure it doesn't go with the shipment. I've done it before for other producers. They have a pet or something that they've raised and they want to, tan the hide and have it as a rug. Then that's something I can set aside and do for them.
Great. And then how about you, Matt?
Oh yeah, no, we've saved hides for individuals and sold them, and he's actually absolutely right about having to have those hides brand inspected. So yeah, it's basically exactly as John just explained it. It's they're available. Just let us know what you're looking for.
Great. And then this next question can go to both of you. What would you say are the benefits of using a local mobile slaughter instead of shipping to a large plant?
Stress.
Stress for the animals.
Big time. Big time. I mean, imagine being from a place that you're raised, as an animal on your feed and with all your buddies, and then get shipped on a truck for 3.5 hours to another climate. I mean, the Valley or Fortuna is a totally different climate than what we're used to. Stress is a big issue with just shipping cattle in general, not only for slaughter. So being tensed up and then pushed through a mass factory, it's a huge change in that animal's pounds. I do have my facility kind of has, I wouldn't say that same concept, but it's a lot less. Matt on a ranch where they're hit with a rifle in their pen that they've been raised, there's no stress there for that animal. They are transported to me, but we're in a local area to where they're in that trailer for maybe 30-40 minutes in the same climate, in the same environment that surrounds them, and they're being handled through my humane handling process. And our facility is very very aware of all the investment that these farmers put into these animals. I raise my own. I get what it takes. I know how much money I have invested in them, and I treat every animal like it's my own. When it comes to trying to keep them calm as possible and put them in the right pens and facilities to butchering and splitting and the whole 9 yards. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. All right. Let's see, I think we have about 15 minutes left. So if anyone else has any other questions, please get them in now. We have another question here. Is there any certification for knowing that animals are slaughtered humanely? So whoever wants to take that.
I imagine there are probably in the USDA sector. We did have a certification at one time, but honestly, we didn't seek it, they seeked us. And I don't know if that certification is out there anymore. So the USDA, I would have to imagine, John? Is it?
Yes. Yes. So I actually have a robust humane handling program as part of my HACCP. That's probably one of the biggest things that my inspector is looking for. Obviously, contamination on the carcass is a huge thing, but humane handling is a massive portion of their inspection. I mean, cattle there has to be water all the time. You know, when we go to stun them, it's a tricky process, and we have to make sure that, you know, when we pull that trigger, that animal is knocked unconscious. You know, and I've done about 1,200 animals so far since we started. And I think within that 1,200, we have misdone maybe 2 animals, which is, you know, outstanding. I think as far as USDA requirements, you know, they do ask for like a 99% rate. And we got that beat. And I'm very proud of it. In the beginning, it was a learning curve. So we hit those when we first started, but, you know, knock on wood, it's been a good learning curve, and we've been really conscious about that, because, you know, it's a mark on our program, and we don't want that, and we don't want it for the animals. Again, I mean, I raise my own, and I love them right up till the end. You know, I don't want to see them suffer or anything like that. So we try to do it, take our time. It doesn't matter how busy we are. That's very high on our importance list. Making sure that animal's knocked unconscious and then let out and processed from there.
Great, thank you so much. So do you have, is it a certain certification program?
So it's the USDA or the FSIS requires you to have a robust humane handling program. So it's a program that I generated to talk about how we're going to handle them, where I record keep when they're shipped, temperature, if they have feed, if they have water, how many slips and falls, are corrals in working order. And, you know, I have a list, a daily monitoring log. I have monthly auditing logs. I have quarterly auditing logs, yearlies. Again, what Matt talks about with paperwork, that's the main thing. I have probably a lot of paperwork just for humane handling. And when I designed it, I did a lot of the Temple Grandin methods as far as how I built my corrals. Walking up chutes, I don't like to drive the cattle or use a prod or a flag. You know, we try to use the animal's instinct to kind of get them to where we want them to go. They're always in a new facility, so it might be tricky on some animals, but I feel our corral system and where we bring them to our knock box is very, we hardly drive animals. I mean, it's like they naturally want to walk up there. One, they're kind of interested in what's going on. They've been locked in the pen. And yeah, they kind of, most of them just kind of want to just cruise up there and be processed. So.
Right. Okay, great. So that's part of the USDA inspection program.
Correct.
And then somebody also posted a link in the chat to a third-party certification, which is not part of the USDA program. So there's a link in the chat for those interested to the Animal Welfare Approved, which certifies the producer end of things, and then also the processor, the slaughter end of things. Great. Okay, we have a question for either of you from Brittany. She says, I would like to learn more about harvesting and butchering animals, the actual how-to hands-on work of doing it myself, primarily for feeding myself and my family. What resources would you recommend for someone new to this who'd like to learn by doing?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Obviously, we're in a business and a work environment. Unfortunately, insurance really limits us to who we can put a knife in whose hands. Unfortunately. unfortunately. And we get that, I get that all the time. And honestly, you almost have to get a job anymore. You know, YouTube might help you a lot. Hunters learn a lot processing their animals. Might be something that you first get involved with, and but other than that, I don't know really too many avenues. Like I say, insurance purposes now, just like everything, everybody's worried about getting sued, and putting a knife in somebody's hands that really hasn't had proper training. It's a risk. Yeah. Unfortunately, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would say, come on in and let's have a cup of coffee and let's get on the block and let's have some fun. I have done some schooling or some classes in evenings for some stuff, but I have gotten away from it. I may get back involved in it with all the remodeling stuff and everything that I've been doing. I just hadn't had the time in the last 5 years, but maybe something we'll look into.
Great. And then John, I know you're a bit self-taught, so maybe you have some advice as well.
Yeah. Again, you know, carpenter by trade, I've always seen animals be processed on our farm. I never did it. You know, I understood the process of what it took, but yeah, I wouldn't say 100% self-taught. I mean, I did have a butcher, a retired butcher, kind of show me the ropes on a few animals and kind of just build confidence of the procedure. And like Matt said, like a lot of YouTube, honestly, just because repetitiveness. I mean, once you understand where it starts and where it needs to finish, where you need to, you know, get that animal, it's repetitive and you just build skill. I mean, it's seat time. It's the more time you do it, the better you'll get. And I watched videos of all types of different butchers. I've tried it, I think, almost every way, and I've kind of built my own way of doing it. You know, it's a skilled trade. It just comes with time. It's definitely possible. I mean, you put the time in, you can definitely do it. But it's, you know, it's an investment. It's not just something, you know, you're not reading instructions to build a cake. You know, we're not bakers, we're chefs. So it's not easy, but it's possible. And YouTube is a great tool to use to kind of just steer you in the right direction and kind of build a game plan. But I would recommend maybe watching a few by a professional and, you know, getting some tips and tricks of what you should look for, or, you know, the important parts of doing it, and be safe with a knife. Understand what that can do, because they're cutting through a lot of things, and they can they're not very forgiving when you get yourself.
That's right. And I know there's also some meat cutting programs at some of the universities and community colleges in our state. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but if you email me, I can find out for you. Maybe Matt or John knows of any of those.
UC Davis, I think, does that, or?
I don't know that he does. I was just with Caleb Rudsnat. I was just with him over the weekend. And you know, he runs that meat science program up there and does a fantastic job. But yeah, that may be a good place to start, because Caleb has a lot of information out there, and he's more than willing to try to help. A great guy. He actually helps us with our, and this is something else I like to mention to people that are trying to get out there, is get involved in some of these associations. I was just at what we call our CAMP, California Association of Meat Processors. We had a convention. We do it once a year, maybe twice a year. And we all get together, and, you know, we all brainstorm and talk about what we're up to and the challenges we're at. And we do it at all these colleges with meat science labs, you know, and like Caleb and Chico we were just at, and Cal Poly will go down there. They let us use their meat labs, and we get the kids involved with it too. And we have a competition, and I was fortunate. I won Best of Show 2 years ago, so I got to, I got to judge one of the collegiate class, and they were doing a summer sausage, so I was able to judge that class, and it was a lot of fun. And actually, I learned a lot just by just judging their products, and I learned a lot about my products. I mean, they actually, I mean, honestly, they showed me tricks. You don't know where this information is going to come from. It comes from so many different directions and sources. So being involved in some of these things are just a huge, huge help. And if you want support, they give you support. I mean, we're there to build each other's support and help each other out. I mean, we're talking about recipes, we're talking about procedures, all that stuff. So again, if you want to get involved in this business, I recommend getting involved in some of these associations that are around.
That's great. And where was that contest held?
This one was in Chico,
Okay.
at Chico State at their meats lab.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, so CSU Chico is one place to look.
UC Davis.
And UC Davis, and then the California Association of Meat Processors is a good resource. And then there's also another resource, the Niche Meat Processors Network. I'll try to put a link in the chat to that one. So we just have a couple minutes left. So I just want any last words from either of you before we close out.
For me, is hey, if you're gonna have fun, try to enjoy what you're doing and have a great sense of humor, because you're really gonna need to have a sense of humor in this business, because it's gonna test it. So, and just hang in there. You just need to hang in there. That's it for me. John?
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered everything. As far as kind of what we're doing and, what producers should look for and kind of expect from us and what we expect from them. So yeah, I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So keep trucking and keep raising your animals, and someone will be here to process them for you and get them to the consumers.
Wonderful. Well, thanks to everyone who joined us for your great questions. So many questions. You guys were so engaged. Thanks to Matt and John for sharing your wealth of knowledge and providing the processor perspective. That's a tongue twister. It's really important to hear directly from you guys, and we'll have this recorded so we can share it out, so that you don't have to repeat yourselves over and over again, hopefully. I just want to remind everyone, the California Meat Processing Coalition, which is the producer side of things. This is our little group that meets every month. We try to come up with creative solutions to the meat processing issues in California, and we need more people to get involved. So please contact me if you're interested in learning more about that. We're a small but mighty group, and we welcome you all. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me or give me a call. And I hope you'll be taking your animals to John and Matt in the near future. Remember all the tips for a great relationship. And thanks, everyone. Have a really great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.